Welcome back to VA Creative and part 63 of the Ultima RS build, and now the beast is on the road. I have a problem. Welcome back to the Dean Den and the beast. The beast is amazing. Sorry, I know I wax lyrical about her, but now she's done the 500 miles. I've had one or two drives at full chat, and tell you what, it's scary. But I'll share that with you on another episode when I get all the footage collated and, basically edited so she looks just spot on. But I have a problem. My perfect RS is not quite perfect. Yes, I know, I have a problem. And what is it? Well, if we lift the rear engine cover and look at the engine bay, that 6.2 litre V8 just takes your breath away. So I've enhanced it in several ways. So obviously we sprayed it, we've upgraded the rocker covers and actually powder coated those to match the AP racing brakes, which I must say really make the engine bay pop. I've then relocated the coil packs, put on color coded spark leads, and then also I've put on billet fuel rails, but it just doesn't look quite right. And why? Well, a couple of reasons. One, there's a lot of wiring and loom stuff on top of the engine. Don't like that. And also there's the skull cap. Yes. What's the skull cap, you may ask? Well, it's the cover that goes on the intake plenum that's finished in a black sort of plastic. It just doesn't look as though it suits the pedigree of an RS. So what I did is I went online and I was looking around for some market leading, well, let's put it this way, carbon fiber manufacturers. And I came across a company called Easy Composites. And Paul, the CEO, I had a chat with him and he said, tell you what, let's work together and I will make you a bespoke engine cover that will just lift that LS to a level never seen before. And boy, has he delivered. So if you're running an LS in anything, watch this because the end result is astonishing. Now, Easy Composites, I'm just going to say a few words about them. They've been around now for about 15 years. And what they do is they specialize in providing or selling tools, materials for basically doing anything in carbon fiber. And what I mean by that is the cloth, pre-preg and just dry, the resins, the adhesives, also vacuum bags, also tools, also all sorts. But for the likes of you and I that love spannering, what they also do is provide a lot of small kits and also how-to tutorials so we can actually do carbon fiber stuff ourselves. Now, in this episode, I'm first going to cover how we designed and developed and ultimately me fitting the engine cover onto my RS. And I know you're going to like it. But then what we're going to do is then I've got my hands on one of their carbon fiber skinning kits. Yes. And what that does is that transforms a component into a high gloss carbon fiber bit of kit. Boy, I tell you, it's an interesting process, quite a few steps, but that will be in the second half of this video. So tune into that if you really want to see what component I've chosen and what it looks like when it's complete. So I guess all there is left to do is say, well, let's have a look at how we designed that engine cover. So how do you take a concept and from that create a carbon fiber component? Well, both Paul and I wanted the engine cover for the RS to look the part and complement the Ultima's styling. As such, we spent some time collaborating and going backwards and forth with different types of design. Once we were happy, Paul created a CAD design for the actual engine cover And the first stage of the process was to generate a pattern which would then be used to create a mould. Paul set his CNC machine to work on a big block of epoxy tooling board from the CAD files. The mould itself would also be made of carbon fibre, why not, of course. So Paul systematically laid up a number of carbon fibre sheets onto the pattern, and once cured, we had our mould and we could actually make our first engine cover. Paul once again used the CNC files to cut carbon fibre pieces to shape, which he hand laminated into the mould, starting off with the outer cosmetic layer. Using sheets of pre-preg carbon fibre made the process far easier and the results far neater compared to dry cloth. This aesthetic layer is then backed up with a heavier pre-preg layer to provide strength to the component. Once complete, the cover needed curing. So it gets a layer of release film put into a vacuum bag and then slowly cured in an oven. Once cooked, the cover is popped from the mould, and just look at it, just look, it's amazing. But to really take it to the extra step, Paul has meticulously sanded down the surface so it's nice and flat, after which he sprayed on some clear coat resin for that lovely high gloss shine to match all the other Ultima carbon fibre. Paul also included some Ultima mesh that I provided to ensure the design was integrated with the styling of the RS. Now, I've only touched on the process here, so if you want to see or learn more, then keep an eye out for the full video coming on the Easy Composites YouTube channel showing this entire process, and I'll put a link down in the description below. The next stage is to prep the engine cover and fit it to that 6.2 litre V8. So here is the engine cover prepped, ready to go on the LS3, and I must say Paul has made a magnificent job of this. Now what you can probably see is I've added 4 stainless steel brackets, you can see on the rear. Now these will attach to my coil packs. I'll show it to you in a minute when we put it on the engine. But Paul has made a lovely job of bonding in this hexagonal mesh to match the Ultima, and it's pretty rigid this, but it weighs absolutely nothing. Now what I want to do before I put this on is I want to add a little detail. So what's the finishing touch going to be? Well, if you remember, in the cockpit of the Ultima, I had a plaque. And that plaque says, build number 0116, hand built by Nigel Dean. So I've got another one of these plaques, and I'm going to pop it just there. Now, I appreciate I haven't built this engine, but I'm an AMG fan, and I know on my old AMG, the actual engine builder had a plaque put on there with his signature on, and I just think it looks quite cool. So what I'm going to do now is get some very small pop rivets and just pop rivet that on this beautiful carbon fibre, and then it'll be ready to go on the car.
Whenever I'm with you, I am alright. There's something about the way you make me feel inside. I'm counting down the days till we fly away. Heading to the sun, only you and me. Don't wanna waste another day. Feel stuck in this place. Wanna hold you in my mind. Watch the sunset in your eyes. Baby, I want us to act like we are 22 right now. Just let go, lose control. Play songs on the radio too loud. Could be magical. Whoa, whoa. This could be magical.
Skull cap, and doesn't it look horrible? It really, really does. It's like this textured plastic. Now, in the marketplace, you can get a carbon fiber replacement for one of these, an exact replacement, but still, that wouldn't hide all these vacuum hoses, the fuel rails, all this wiring. It's just a bit of a mess. However, let me introduce the Easy Composites engine cover. And here it goes. It sits just like that. Oh, look at that. Now, you tell me if that hasn't improved the look. Right. Now, to put it on is really easy. It's just 4 cap head bolts with spring washers, all stainless steel, of course. It's a bit tricky to do this and not get in the camera shot, but I'll give it a go. And there it is. Right, now it's time to start skinning. Yeah, I didn't know what it was either, but basically what it is, it's transforming an otherwise dull component into one that looks like it's made out of carbon fiber. Yeah, it's not as light as maybe my engine cover, but it still has that finish. So how do you do this? Well, what I did is I bought a starter kit from Easy Composites, and I'm just about to show you all the steps I went through to get the finished product, which I must say, I'm looking at it now, looks really good. I'm quite pleased. Now, in the kit, now I've got a list here, so sorry if I keep looking down. It's called an XCR Carbon Fiber Skinning Kit. That's the actual title of it, and you'll find it on the Easy Composites website. In there, you get obviously the carbon fiber cloth in 2x2 twill, which is what we're all familiar with carbon fiber. You get the black epoxy base coat. You get the clear coating resin, you get hardener, and then they even supply polish. So you get probably everything. And then more on the consumable side, they give you gloves, mixing cups, mixing sticks, laminating brushes, and then also sanding paper to actually take off some of that high points that you get throughout the process. So yeah, so keep tuned and I'll share how it's done. Step 1 of the process is preparation, and what I'm doing is using 120 grit emery paper that's supplied with the skinning kit to provide a key onto the surface of the plenum. Now this takes a bit of time because that plenum comes in a high gloss finish, and what I want to ensure is every single part has a multitude of scratches to allow optimum adhesion. Now step 2 of the process is again another preparation stage, and what I'm doing here is I'm unpacking the carbon fibre cloth. Now this stuff is so delicate, I cannot explain it enough. You just snag it slightly and basically you pull it, it gets like a run in it. Now you can get it back again if you adjust it gently, but when you see me actually manhandling it here and compare it to previously when Paul was using pre-preg, you can see how different it is. I mean, as I unroll this, just look on the edge, you can see where it's pulled already very slightly. So really just treat it very, very carefully. Now I'm trimming this to size roughly, so I don't have too much excess when I'm actually applying it. Step 3, we're actually going to apply the base coat. Now, this actually has two purposes. One, to make the base of the component black, and to be honest, mine is already black, so it doesn't really matter. But second, it will allow the actual carbon fibre cloth to be stuck onto the component. Now you see me mixing the base coat, and you'll see me adding the hardener here. Now I've nicked the missus scales, kitchen scales, I haven't told her to mix this up. Now for goodness sake, don't get any of this stuff on the scales, it will never come off. Now the secret here is to make sure you mix it, and mix it really, really well. It takes some stirring, I've sort of sped it up here a bit. And then what you do is you just paint it on. It's as simple as that. So yeah, I'm just making sure it's all okay. And what you do is you apply it evenly all over the surface. Don't worry about it being a little bit thick, that doesn't really matter. And this is where the kit having also the brushes in is really, really useful, because every coat of this you put on, you destroy a brush. It's like sacrificial brush time. So there you go. So I'm making sure every single part is actually covered. And there you go. Next, this is the most stressful part. Now, what has happened is that base coat has got very tacky. It's about a couple of hours, you can feel it. It sort of just slightly tacks onto your finger when you touch it. And now what I'm doing is putting on this super delicate cloth and making sure that everything goes on completely square with no creases. And yeah, this was quite a big thing for me to try first time. I should have tried something smaller, but I was pleased with the result actually. It was pretty good. But this is sped up. This took me about, I reckon, 30 minutes. Step 5, what we need to do is apply the first layer of clear coat. Now this is part of building up that layer that gives it that ultimate shine. Now I've left it for about a couple of hours. I've trimmed off all the edges, and what you can see now is the airbox hole at the top. I've done that. I've cut that with a knife and folded it back. So now what we're doing is mixing the clear coat again with the same proportions. And as before, make sure it's mixed carefully and apply it with another brush. Yep, there's another brush going to go in the bin. This layer doesn't have to be super thick. Just brush it on. And what you're basically doing now is really sealing that top surface. It's quite satisfying, this actually, because you can start seeing the component come together. Step 6, denibbing. Yeah, well, we've allowed the component to cure overnight. So now it's rock solid. And what I'm using is 120 grit paper just to take off any high points. Now this is like around the edges, on the surface, and this sort of seems counterintuitive because the lovely surface now is all going white and powdery, but have faith, this is what you have to do. So you can see now I'm going especially around the edges because this stuff is really sharp once it's cured. Step 7, applying clear coat. Now this is several stages here, but I've condensed it for the video. But clearly, first of all, we need to clean any dust off the surface at all. Then mix up some clear coat resin using the scales. And what we'll do is we'll apply this with another clean brush, because the last one is like concrete. And this process is actually repeated every 2 hours. And that's very important, this, because what you have to do is wait until that surface just becomes tacky before you put another layer on. Right, step 8, final clear coat. Now, as I said at the beginning of this, what I'm going to do is actually spray this. So what I've done off camera is actually sanded down that surface down to wet and dry paper. And outside the Dean Den, I'm using 2-pack spray on clear lacquer. And she's coming up a treat. This is really a bit of a cheat at the end because you can do another clear coat and rub it down, but this just makes it a lot faster. And this is very, very satisfying, I must say. Yes, another episode draws to a close, and I'm going to call this one my carbon episode. Yes, a shout out to Easy Composites for helping me out, especially with that engine cover. It is stunning. It really is. I love it. Just can't stop looking at it. But anyway, you want to know what my plenum looks like, my first bit of skinning. Well, there you go. What do you think? I think it's pretty good for a first attempt. Actually, I think it's very good. So what needs to happen next is I'm going to bond that to the inside of that rear canopy. So when it's opened up, that V8 is just going to ping. It's going to look beautiful. So I guess all there's left to say is, from me and Rufus, yes, I brought Rufus in on this episode, is to say, keep smiling, keep spannering, and see you next time.